welcome to another video. Let me fix this. It's kind of tilted. Whoops. There we go. That's more straight. Now it goes. Yeah, and of course tonight, Tuesday, was the first debate between Trump and Joe Biden. Got the water. Get my caffeine. And it went pretty much as I expected. I knew the questions that Chris Wallace was going to ask. Yeah, so I'll be smoking ManOWar Ruinnation. And yeah, this would be the perfect cigar to smoke. Right, it will be a ruination if Biden and his ilks get in office. So it's not really a question of who won, who lost, you know, because to the two Republicans, Trump won. To Democrats, Biden won. The question is the moderates, you know, moderates who lean, you know, either way, left or right, on certain issues. You know, those are the people that either Trump or Biden's got to I guess, convince. Yeah, so next Tuesday is going to be the VP candidate. And I hope that one will put. That one I'm going to say now, but it may not. That one, no, I enjoyed this one. It was basically Trump versus Mike Wallace and Joe Biden. There was even a time where Trump's like, "Hey, I guess I'm debating you, and not, you know, and not Joe Biden." Yeah, so it's kind of like a UFC match where the fighter is fighting both his opponent and the ref. It's going to be a hard match. That's a fire truck. I guess somebody needs the ambulance. So yeah, so the Democrats are still going to do their mail-in ballots. I normally don't do I've never really done early voting for the presidential election. I might do it this time just to avoid the crowd. Come November 3rd. And of course, here in Texas, our Governor Abbott actually extended it from early voting it's supposed to be on the 19th, but he said, hey, you know, early voting is going to be on the 13th. So of course, the Texas Republicans sued him, took him to court. Supreme Court of Texas says, yeah, that is against the Texas Constitution. You can't do that, Governor Abbott. And also, the Texas Supreme Court also struck down mail-in voting. You know, of course, in Texas, mail-in voting is not a thing that we normally do. I guess in some states, they do more mail-in ballots, mainly because of, I guess, rural area, like farm area and stuff like that. So the states like I would say like Montana maybe, where there's a lot of people who live in rural area, things like that. I guess maybe they can do absentee. I'm gonna call it absentee voting. They're calling it mail-in voting, but it's really absentee voting. And Trump's correct. For absentee voting, you have to request it, meaning you send in a request to the government for a mail-in ballot. Then they send you a ballot. This is, as Trump said, this is unsolicited. They're just mailing, you know, as Trump mentioned, I thought it was going to be 50 million, but Trump's like, hey, it's going to be like 80 million. There's no way. There's no way they're going to be able to count 80 million ballots, and then that's assuming, you send out 80, you get 90 million back. No, that's assuming that hundreds of thousands of Trump ballots aren't being dumped into like a river, incinerator, or in case of Ilhar Omar, her district, people who either volunteer or works for her, or harvesting ballots. They yeah. There's a meme how the Somali male pirates. Yes, these people are crooked, and they've brought their crooked ways with them to Minnesota. Phew, the smoke's just. It's not a bad cigar. This is it's a strong cigar. I would say a mild to strong, because I'm getting a very slight bitterness. Yeah, but it's a mild to strong cigar, and I wouldn't smoke a bigger, a Toro size or anything like that. Gauge wise, it is a bigger 60 gauge cigar. Yeah, so the Somali male pirates are at it in Minnesota. And of course and I don't know why they keep bringing up the Charlottesville. Trump has come out and said that what he meant, and it was taken out of context. And he said there were good people on both sides, because there were some folks there who were non-KKK, non-alt-right, who were there to protest, and also on the other side, there were people there who were non-Antifa, who were there to protest, and those were the folks that he was referring to. And of course, the Chris Wallace, will you call out the white supremacists and the alt-right? Trump's like, so who do you want me to call out? And of course he named the Proud Boys. He's like, hey, Proud Boys, stand down. And yes, Proud Boys do have a BitChute channel. And I don't know if they have a YouTube channel. I didn't even bother checking to see if they have a YouTube channel. Probably took them down, but they do have a BitChute channel. And and of course, Chris Wallace was trying to blame, white supremacy and the alt-right for all of the rioting, looting, and burning that's happening in Democrat cities. And of course, Trump defended. He's like, hey, look, man, it's Antifa. It's Antifa that's doing all of the looting and rioting and burning in these Democrat cities. And of course, Trump was trying to get Biden to say that he supports the police, which he didn't say. Of course, now he did say, I am for, and of course Biden did, I am for law and order, but he didn't say that he support the police. Democrats are for defunding the police. The NWA's F the police. Well, is Biden's campaign song. And I like it when Trump stuck it to Biden. It's like, hey man, name one police organization that backs you. And of course, they talk about the Democrats wants by 2035 for a complete renewable energy in the U.S., meaning no more coal plants, no more natural gas burning plants, no more nuclear. Yeah, and of course it's the same thing with Governor Newsom over in California, who came out and said that that there will be by 2035 he wants all electric cars, and that by 2035 you cannot buy a gas combustion engine car in California. Then of course he said, hey, but you can keep, if you have a gas combustion engine car, you'll be grandfathered in. And everybody's like, yeah, how about that Obamacare? Talking about if you have your, we've been suckered before. You'll probably be taxed to hell. And the government needs to get rid of that 7,700 that they in tax breaks that they give to people who buy electric cars. Yes, and electric cars, and I'll keep saying this, electric cars are ran by coal. Right now in the U.S., only 14% of the electricity that's produced in the U.S. is renewable energy. And they're saying that by 2045, it will only go up to like 16%. So, and the thing with renewable energy is that it's not grid friendly. And if you're talking about California, their grid, as I mentioned, their grids go back to 1920s. They haven't bothered upgrading their electrical grids. They're more worried about putting up turbines and solar farms. They're more worried about putting up turbine farms and solar farms than, instead of spending the $4.5 billion, was it more? So instead of spending that $4.5 billion on upgrading your infrastructure from 1920s, and then worrying about putting in the solar and wind, they're doing it backwards. It's kind of like a it's kind of like I don't know. I'm trying to think of another example. But this cigar is going down pretty quick. But the drawback, and I agree, the drawback of renewable energy is that it has a cap, and batteries have a cap. Back in my 20s, I used to do RC racing, and back then we had the nickel NiCads, rechargeable NiCads, and those things were horrible for going bad. You can tell it would, the battery pack would swell up. You're like, okay, that's it. This battery pack is screwed. I probably went through about 10 battery packs. Only did for a few years. You go to the race, you would take 3. If you could afford it, you take more, but you would take like 3 packs. And there was 2 heats, and so you raced in two heats, and I think like the top 5, or depending on how many people shows up, normally the top 5 would go on to the elimination rounds. So 3, you could get away with using 1 pack for 2 races. It will be enough juice, but you want like the most juice in your battery back then. Get your car going the fastest. And I've made it to the final rounds a few times, never won. But yeah, batteries were notorious for going bad, not charging, or not charging enough. You can tell when your battery's going bad also is that when you try to charge it, it wouldn't fully charge. And now this is of course NiCads. Then they came up with lithium ions. And lithium ions is what we're using today in our in your I guess RC flashlight, rechargeable batteries for flashlights, rechargeable batteries, lithium ion for drills and stuff like that. And if you read up on it, I've had Ryobi drills for years, and Ryobis are notorious for their batteries not charging. And I just found my old the 12 volt rechargeable Ryobi in a going through some boxes in the attic. Like, hey, I forgot about these. I could have used these when I was redoing some stuff on the shack, redoing the ramp on the shack. So anyways, with lithium ions, if you let the battery go completely dead, they tend to not want to charge, and the manufacturers build that in to their chargers, because lithium ions that go completely dead, and if you try to charge it, it will overheat. And that's exactly what happened with one battery. One battery actually still had a little bit of charge left on it, and I was able to charge that one up. The other one was completely dead. And the trick that you can do, and this works for all lithium ion, is that you put it on the charger, take it off, put it on, because each time you put it on, it gets a little bit of charge. So you put it on about 10 times, and it will get enough charge to where the computer on the charger thinks that there's enough charge on your batteries to start charging, which is what happened. And I was charging for about 30 minutes. I looked over, and the charger went out. I went and touched the battery. Like, oh shit, the battery is freaking hot. Luckily the computer on the charger sensed that there was the battery was overheating, and it cut off the charging. So it's very simple. I took it off, let it cool down for about an hour, put it back on the charger, and it fully charged up the battery. Now imagine that in an electric car, and to my surprise, the Leaf is the #1 selling electric vehicle. I did not know that. I figured it would be Tesla, but again, Teslas are expensive compared to a Nissan Leaf. And of course, Nissan can mass produce, I guess, more than Tesla can. And of course, with Nissan, you have it's a battery replacement plan. I think it's something like 300 a month, something like that. Yeah, that's basically a car payment. It depends on the plan that you go with. It's either like $250 or $300 a month. Because if you own the car, let's say for the life of the car, let's say 5 years, and then you have to change the battery, it would come up to somewhere around $5,000 if you want to change out the Leaf has about I believe 600 banks of battery, and again, the batteries are about the size of your smartphone, but then they stack like 3 on top of each other, and then they wrap it up, and that's like 1 bank of battery. And as it turns out, you can I don't know if you have to do it at home. I don't know if you can DIY, change your own battery at home. I'm pretty sure someone probably has tried it, and I don't know if they electrocuted themselves, because there's not exactly a switch at the wall or a circuit breaker you can flip that will turn the the electricity off to those batteries. So anyways, on the lease for the Nissan Volt, yeah, there's a battery plan that you can subscribe to. It's something like $250, maybe $300 a month, and it's I don't know if it's unlimited. Like, hey, you have 10 banks that breaks 1 month, six months down the road, and another 10 or 20 banks of batteries break, and you got to replace them. And that's a lifetime of the car. So if you transfer the ownership, or you sell the car to someone else, it transfers to them. So you got to be, hey, look, if you buy my Leaf, there's a $300 a month payment you got to do for the battery replacement, and guarantee you there's going to be some owner that's going to forget. And now this person who bought your car is going to be stuck with this $300 a month payment that they're like, hey, wait a minute, you didn't tell me about this $300 a month I got to pay, which again is basically a car payment. Of course, it depends. If it's if that's like a $17,000 car, that's around how much per month you're going to be paying. It's about around $300. But I heard the Leaf starts off at around $30,000, somewhere around there. But still, let's say if you own the car for And it turns out, Leaf owners do keep their cars for at least 5 years. I guess that's probably the length of their of their of their of their banknote, I guess, on the car. So yeah, so that I don't know if Tesla has one. I don't know if Chevy has one, but I did read up on Nissan, and they have one. I'm like, yeah, okay, $300 a month. That's a car payment on top of your car payment, you know. And if you got the basic model, which is $3,000, not $30,000, that's $400 a month you're gonna be paying on top of the 300. So you're looking at, and that's if you decide to go with the battery replacement plan. If you don't, once the car is out of its warranty, and I don't know what, I'm gonna assume it's 3 year, 3 year or 50,000 mile, something like that. Yeah, so there is maintenance that has to be done, on electric car. One is battery replacement, and the problem is if you do drive, and we'll see more of this when more electric cars are on the road. And again, I know, just like Trump, hey, I'm not against electric cars. I'm glad that there is a choice. Now, we do live in a free market, and if a guy like Tesla, or a company like Nissan wants to sell you an electric car, by all means, there's a market for it. Someone's going to buy it. But what I see is that if an owner, and I don't know, they may put some sort of a system into the car that the car will shut off before the battery banks are completely drained. Because the problem, yes, and the batteries that are and of course Tesla owners will say, oh no, but our cars have a special rechargeable battery. No, the battery in your car is lithium ion also. Tesla just calls it a special name, but it's lithium ion. And the lithium metal, of course, it's not metal. The U.S. has lithium. We just don't mine it because it kills the environment. Of course, we'll go to like the Philippines, to China, Vietnam, and dig big old holes in the ground there and mine the lithium out of their grounds. There's see no evil. It was a see no evil, do no evil. That's the kind of that's kind of what these electric car owners are. Is they're a bunch of I see no evil, therefore I'm doing no evil. Just because you don't see any exhaust coming out of your car, it don't mean that the source that you get your electricity from, which is coal, again, electric cars run on coal. And of course, I've spoken to people like, hey man, the electric car still got to plug up to a electrical grid that is powered by coal. Like, oh no, I pay for renewable energy. It's like, yeah, keep telling yourself that. You're just being charged extra money each month by the electric company to tell you, yes, you want to go with our renewable energy plan? Yeah, sure thing. Because electricity is like water. Think of electricity like water. The pipe that comes to your house from the water plant all goes into the same pipe. If you call the utility company and go, hey, I want Avion water to come out of my pipe, and I'm willing to pay the extra money every month for Avion water to come out of my pipe. Like, yeah, sure thing. We will pipe Evian to your house. And it's like, yeah, there's Evian water going through the pipe, going to your house. It's just mixed in with everybody else's water, but yeah, you're getting it. Yeah, so the biggest, and I mentioned again, the biggest drawback of renewables is that there is a cap. There's a battery cap, There's a cap on how much energy that solar panels and wind panels can generate. Batteries will overheat and catch fire. So as I said, the more electrical cars are on the road, we're going to start seeing more, more Teslas, more Leafs and Volt catching fire on the side of the road, as we haven't already. We'll see. Of course, we're going to start seeing landfills. And yes, and if you bring that up, of course, the green zealots of the green cult, and they'll come back with, no. The batteries are being recycled. Keep telling yourself that. It's the same with our recycled trash that we throw out. 10% of it actually gets recycled. The other 90% either goes into a landfill, goes into the ocean, or they stick it on a large container ship, send it over to some third world country, where it gets dumped into their landfill, where they either just throw it into a landfill or they actually throw it into or they burn it. China. And of course, they're like, hey, they get money for it. They're not just going to show up to their port with a tanker ship full of trash. And it's like, hey, here goes some trash, man. So someone's getting paid. Probably the government. Let me take this. So they either throw it into the landfill, or they put it in, or they burn it in open air. And I'm not talking about an incinerator. I'm talking about open air burning, where it's all the chemical goes up into the air without being filtered. Same thing's going to happen with batteries. It's 10% of it is probably going to get recycled. The other 90% is going to go into a landfill, out into the ocean. And of course, batteries being heavy, they'll sink down to the bottom, or it will be put on the tanker ship, where it's going to be shipped overseas, where little Juan or little Shin is going to have to deal with the trash in his landfill, or being burnt in his backyard. And of course, we haven't seen that yet, because again, electric cars still make up a small percentage of the car population. And of course, if you tell them, hey, electric cars only pollutes about 5% less than it pollutes 5% less than a combustion engine car. Like, well, what do you mean? Well, the manufacturing of the electric car compared to a gas engine car produces more CO2, produces more environmentally impacting procedures, and of course, when it's on the road, the electric that goes to electric cars come from coal burning plants, and so in the long run, no, we're not talking about it pollutes 90% less kind of thing, what they're trying to push, but it's more like 5%. It pollutes about 5% less. Now, of course, you got the green zealot who's going to come out and say, hey, but if you take that and multiply it by 100 million cars, that really adds up. I'm like, yeah, it does add up, but in the long run, it's not just the car, it's the electricity that's going to be needed, which we don't have right now in our system. Our grid cannot handle a whole bunch of electric cars, especially grids like in California. Yeah, it is kind of cool. Looks like autumn, which is kind of weird. The other day it was like 95 degrees, and I was out here doing yard work, sweating my ass off, and then the next day it's like 80. It's like, what the heck? Why couldn't it be 80? Why couldn't it have been 80 the other day? And and today it was like back into the mid 80s. Tomorrow will be back into the 90s, and I'm like, well, okay, this weather's just crazy. No, it's not climate change. Yeah, and of course, as for the debate, they touched on climate change. They talked about the California wildfire, and of course, I know Trump's, someone is, his people got him prepared. He's like, well, in California, it's not climate change that's causing the forest to burn. It's forest management. It's bad forest management. And it's really not bad forest management. It's this bad politics, because he mentioned, hey, there are these other places that I've been where it is more forested than California, and they don't have forest fires years after years. I'll even take East Texas, for example. We have pine trees out there, and we don't have forest fires after forest fire. And yes, Texas has a dense pine tree forest out in the East Texas, and yes, it does get logged. It does get forest management. Now, someone mentioned that there's eucalyptus that I guess for some reason either the California government or farmers decided that, hey, there's money in eucalyptus trees, and they planted eucalyptus trees. And if you know anything about eucalyptus trees, they're kind of like pine trees. They have oils that, of course, if the tree catches fire, it's going to go up. So eucalyptus trees, and you got pine trees. Bad combination. Both trees are oily. I was like, okay, I didn't know that. But someone planted a bunch of eucalyptus trees, but either way, it's the same thing. It's an oily tree. It's going to go up like a campfire that's just been sprayed with some kerosene. Let me get some more water. Yeah, so I guess 2 more weeks will be the second debate. So we'll see what we'll see if Biden even shows up for the second debate. He might just give up and go, screw it, man, just Kamala Harris, you go and debate Trump. Right, so on YouTube, I got these so I answered a video. Yeah, and the only reason, of course, I'm answering these guys back is because they answered a thread I started. So basically, the video is about Japan, Japan for the Japanese, and that they don't need mass immigration. They don't. Japan being known as xenophobic, and the Japanese welcomes tourists. They welcome visitors. You can visit, but you can't stay. And the thing is that, yes, Japan does immigrate skilled workers. For decades now, they've been immigrating Filipino nurses to Japan. An example of a skilled worker. They're not just immigrating anybody. Hey, anybody who wants to come over, come scrub the toilets in Japan, mop the floors for us. Please come to Japan. No, that type of immigration is just going to get you in trouble. So I got a couple of these pretend conservatives. They'll come on and say, if globalism is good, Japan cannot survive without mass immigration. I'm like, well, look at what mass immigration has done to the West, United States and Europe. It's turned some European countries into a third world hellhole, and it's turning the U.S. into a third world. And they're like, well, and of course he came back. Well, I'm talking about checked mass immigration. And I was like, and I was like, hey, I agree to a point. With mass immigration, you have to do it to a point, then you have to shut it off. I bought it the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, where they bumped up from 250,000 a year to 1 million a year, and it's been like that since 1965. And they were just welcoming anybody and everybody in. And of course, a lot of time when I mention this, they'll say, well, your parents or your ancestors, immigrated to the United States. What about that? It's like, well, hey, we got on the boat first. Screw you. That's my answer. Hey, we got here first. So what? It's like, no, Japan, and of course it got to the point where I told the guys, hey, look, you support globalism, and of course these guys don't understand what globalism is. Globalism is it's the new world order where they eventually want a single government, open borders, one government controls all, and I don't support that. And yes, and they are using a glitch in capitalism to implement that. And I don't know if it's Dinesh D'Souza where he's like, no, globalism is not part of capitalism. And I'm like, well, they're using a glitch in the free market to, like companies going to China. Companies going to China because it's cheaper labor in China. You get cheaper parts and you sell it in the U.S. or going to Vietnam or going to Taiwan. So it's made in China, but it's not being sold in China. The parts are being shipped back to the U.S. And that is of course a small example of globalism. And of course they're sending not just manufacturing jobs, but they're sending tech jobs overseas. And of course you have the H-1B visas where they're actually bringing the cheaper labor from India to the U.S. That is a part of globalism. It's trying to explain to them, look, this doesn't, globalism is not good for the country that's losing all of the jobs. Yes, it's good for the third world country that the jobs are going to, but it's not good for the country where the jobs are losing. And these guys just didn't understand. He kept coming back with, well, Japan cannot survive without mass immigration. It's like, look, man, Japan will survive just fine without mass immigration. Whether it's checked or unchecked mass immigration, Japan's going to survive. Then there's another guy who was coming at me talking about you don't understand how globalism works and mass immigration. Japan, same thing. The guy, Japan cannot survive without mass immigration. And again, these guys are trying to come off as conservatives, and of course I made the note. Well, globalism is using a glitch in capitalism, but the thing with globalism is that globalism is a stepping stone towards socialism and ultimately communism. And then the idiot replies back to me, well, it's you don't know what you're talking about. A capitalist society cannot just turn socialist. And I was like, so I replied back and gave examples. Well, yes, economic systems can change in a country. The U.S., the former Soviet Union, China. Of course, China is the economy is a socialist capitalist, but their government is communism. But again, we're talking about economic systems here. So countries like the Soviet Union, when they collapsed, they switched over to a sort of a socialist capitalist system. Same with China, and of course South America. Pretty much all of the countries in South America switched from capitalism over to a socialist style economy and government. Then the guy replies back with, well, don't you know in communism there's no currency in communism? You don't know what you're talking about. Have you read any Marxist book? I was like, what the hell does it mean if I haven't read any Marxist book? Does he mean, books written about Marx? Does he mean, the whole bunch of books that Marx wrote? And of course, the big one that you should read from Karl Marx is the Communist Manifesto, and that one, and of course, in his Communist Manifesto, he talks about how the working class will naturally rise up against the capitalist, which is the corporation, which doesn't happen, and it's never happened. And that's and of course, I was like, hey, look, man, I replied back, hey, I wasn't talking about currency or money. I'm talking about economic systems here. And yes, in the former Soviet Union, they did have a currency, and the same thing in China. When China was a full-blown communist government and economy, same thing with North Korea. They got a currency. Yes, and communism in theory is fantastic. Hey, everything's free. There's no ownership of property. So your house, everything, your house, your car, your boat, the clothes on your back technically belongs to the people. That's the theory. It belongs to the people, not a government. That's Karl Marx's I guess his idea is that it belongs to the people. That's his communism. But in practice, you don't own anything, and the government and the oligarchies own everything, and they have all the money. So what is the temperature? I'm getting chilly. Okay. Oh, okay. No wonder it's 60 degrees. That's why I'm going. Ooh, man, it's getting chilly out here. What the hell? There we go. Yeah, so 60 degrees. So same thing with this guy. It's just a few guys. Most folks agree, like, hey man, I agree with you. And don't listen to these guys. So I'm not listening to them. I'm just rebutting them. But the thing is, it's like I reply to them a couple of times. That's why I do it. A couple of times. After that, it's like, hey, look, man, I'm not replying to you again because one, you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind. If you support globalism, you support mass immigration. I don't, and I'm going to end it with that. And of course, the guy will reply. I just ignore it. Like, okay, whatever, because the thing is, you just let their reply. You just let their reply show their stupidity. Kind of the guy talking about, hey man, a capitalist society cannot just turn to socialism. Oh yes, it can. Venezuela for one, and it can flip around to the other side too, or a socialist or communist society. It's a lot slower to flip. Well, actually, both of the process is pretty slow because it took Venezuela 12 years to finally collapse after switching over to socialism. Now, some people call it full-blown communism, but I would agree right now they're in a full-blown communism, but maybe around 2012 and 13 is when they had their collapse, is when it was socialism. So I agree. In theory, it's nice. Everything is free. If you need an education, Big Brother will pay for it. If you need a house, Big Brother will give you one. If you need a car or transportation, Big Brother will supply it. If you need a job, Big Brother will supply it. Of course, it'd probably be the gulag. It'd probably be the gulag. You get a house, but you have to share it with 6 other family. Yeah, I remember in the 80s there was people who managed to escape the Soviet Union or defect from the Soviet Union. Now these folks weren't lying when they mentioned, there were families, 3 to 6 families sharing a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're like, and that's not a rarity. That's the normal. You got 3, 4, 5, 6 families sharing 2-bedroom apartments. yes, people waiting in food lines. You have the bread line, the cheese line, and of course the line that's always open was the vodka line. Uh, yes, and people in the former Soviet Union, they did have currency. I remember in the 80s, I didn't go, but my parents, my sister went to visit our cousins in France. And yes, when we escaped communism in Southeast Asia, or East Asia, whatever, some people refer to that area as also as East Asia, which will be which I'm fine with. People still know what you're referring to. Yeah, so when we escaped communism from East Asia, and a lot of my aunts and uncles went to France because they spoke French. The French colonized the French Indochina area. So in school, you were taught French. So we asked them, like, yeah, well, we don't speak any English, so but we do speak French, so that's why we decided to come to France. So like, okay, that makes sense. That's and yes, and just like that, I forgot what that Refugee Act is called. Where everybody fled to Thailand because Thailand is the country that's right next to you. That's where refugees would flee to. And then from there, you would petition, if you had the connection or the money, you would petition to go to, either you wait there until things blow over and go back to your country, or you petition to go to another country, like, U.S., France, stuff like that. And yeah, my parents waited in the refugee camp, for their number to come up. Yeah, and back then there were there's hardly any Asians now in the U.S. If you take out the population of the I guess the Middle East and South Asia in the U.S., the East Asian population is actually close to around 3%. But if you add South Asians and the Middle Eastern Asians, this would be India, Pakistan, Afghanistan. We're talking, Iraq, Iran, all of them, Syria. Then the Asian population is up somewhere around 7%. I don't know, Somalia? No, Somalia is Africa. Yeah, I guess while we're talking about Somalia, of course, you have the, I already talked about her, the Somali male pirates. Yep. Yeah, it's not bad. Probably another inch, and I'll put it down. Probably be done with the video by then. So it's cold, my fingers are cramping up. Yeah, so we waited and got to the U.S. and whoa, that was a big old moth, huh? So kind of lost my train of thought there. So oh yes. So they went to France, and of course back then there was they were saying, hey, if you decide to go to Russia, which I don't know why we would, and of course back then Paris was just as bad. They're saying, hey, while you're here, don't wear any gold. I said, while you're here in Paris, don't wear any gold, gold necklace, rings, stuff like that. Don't wear any designer clothes. You'll get mugged for them. It's like, damn, man, Paris that bad? I thought a lot of stuff came from Paris, but anyways. So there you go. Like the ash finally fell off. There was also saying that if you went to Moscow, they're saying don't wear. I remember they're saying don't wear jeans from the West, like Levi's, or Levi's is popular. Let's just use Levi. They're saying a pair of Levi's back then was going for like $700 US in Moscow. And they're saying that I don't know if it actually happened, but they're saying that there were Westerners who were literally being mugged for the Levi's. You're getting club over the head, and next thing you wake up and say, where the hell my pants go? they would mug you for your Levi's or your Nikes. Yeah, don't wear Nikes. They'll mug you. Yes, it was that bad in the former Soviet Union. You'll get mugged for your Nikes. You'll get mugged for your Levi's. And of course, anyone who came from Texas was stereotyped as a cowboy. It's like, do we look like cowboys to you? And of course, my dad wore a cowboy hat back then, so that didn't help. It's like, yeah, he's an Asian cowboy. Yeah, so that's the I guess the old story, and of course now today they're like, hey man, don't, they're like, until things get better, don't bother coming to Paris to visit. We'll go, if not because of the pandemic, it's because of all of the unrest that's happening over in Paris. And they're like, hey, because I have one cousin that lives in Paris, and that's not only the cousin that we visit because he's already in Paris. And he's like, yeah, don't bother coming because it's not safe here. It's like, wait, it wasn't safe in the 80s. It's not safe now in the 2020s. Like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, okay. Yeah, so basically I'll close on this time. So same thing, this guy is like, hey, look, man, if you're gonna start quoting authors, at least know what books they wrote. And I was like, do you mean the book that Karl Marx wrote, the Communist Manifesto? No, the Communist Manifesto. He wrote like a whole bunch of other books, which I'm not going to bother reading. But I definitely recommend getting. Hey, you can get an audio book of it if you don't feel like reading it. One that I do need to read is the Yuri Bezanov's is it a goodbye kiss to America or a something like that's what he wrote. I think it's Goodbye Kiss to America that he wrote back in the 1983. The poor guy passed away in 1991. I think he might have been I think he might have been assassinated because he was a Russian defector or KGB defector, and the KGB may have caught up to him in 91 and took him out, or it could have been the vodka that took him out, who knows. And so yeah, I definitely need to read that Yuri Bezanov's book. Dinesh D'Souza, of course, his I think October 9th is when his next documentary is coming out. I'll definitely buy that. I'll definitely buy that. I need to order his book and read that book. Yes, I've read his other book. I need to do reviews on them, but I'd rather you guys read the books than me telling you, oh yeah, well, he talks about this in his book, and it's like, well, I'd rather you read it. And again, if you don't feel like reading, you can get the audio book. Or actually just call audio track. I hate calling audio book because you're not actually reading. It's like an audio track. So it's not actually a book, it is an audio track you can listen to while you're driving to work, or while you're sitting there watching trash TV if you bother watching it. Yeah, so these are good books to read as the election's heating up. And November 3rd comes around, and it's going to be interesting. Trump has says, and his camp has said, is, hey, if it is a fair election and Biden wins and there's no question of legality or voter fraud or election tampering, then yes, Trump even said it on the debate. If there's a fair election, yes, he has no problem. He has no problem with the transition, but if there is any voter fraud, then he and his lawyers are going to fight it. And yes, and that is also one of the reasons why they want to get Amy Barrett. I think her middle name's Connie. Let's just call her nominee Barrett. they want to get her into the Supreme Court, and of course, the liberals are attacking that she's a Christian. Okay, so her religion really has nothing to do with the position. Let me fix the. Wait, it's getting chilly out here. So maybe just, like I said, smoke it down by another half an inch and call it. It's a good cigar. It's a mild, it's a strong cigar, and it shouldn't. If you are a seasoned smoker, you should be okay with smoking this ManOWar Ruinnation. And of course, if it goes to the Supreme Court, there will be representatives of the Senate for the Republican and representative from the Senate from the Democrats, who will go before the Supreme Court and I guess argue cases of, hey, we found 10,000 Trump ballots in a trash bin over in Virginia. Now we found another 25,000 in a river up here in Pennsylvania, and things like that. And and of course, as for the unrest in the Democrat cities, Trump's he's going to wait until after the election to take care of Portland. Take care of. Of course, he took care of Minneapolis, sent the National Guards in. Take care of Seattle and their pimp police. Yeah, so Seattle's going to. The city council keeps voting to defund the police, and of course the mayor keeps vetoing it. So the mayor, she's of course she's looking around, she's waking up going, hey, this is my city that these knuckleheads are trying to destroy, and I need to stop this police defunding. Of course she played along. It's too late now, lady. And of course they started some sort of referendum to override her veto. And it looks like they were successful. And it looks like Seattle's going to lay off, or well, I don't know if you're going to fire, but they're going to lay off like another 100 police officers. And of course, this last weekend, more rioting, more burning. They had to basically take policemen who had desk jobs off of their desk jobs to go do patrol, or to go do beat police jobs, patrol jobs. And normally officers who are who are at the desk are normally I would say older policemen who are like, hey, look, my knee's hurting. I've been walking the beat for 20 years. Can I get a desk job? So they're taking like old police officers off of their desk job and telling them, hey man, and we know you got a bum knee. But you're going to have to go back out there and out into the street. It's like, okay, he's just going to get those guys hurt. And there's a video of I think it's the Seattle or Portland police where they were pushing these protesters back. They're on to another section of the city or whatever, and one of the females in the crowd who was part of the protest, she fell down, and of course the cops grabbed her, and they're still pushing. And of course the guy who's filming is in the crowd, and he's backing up. He's probably about three or four people back from the front. And you can hear the girl in the background going ree ree ree. Kind of have to chuckle at her. I was like, okay, well, nothing's going to happen to her. Like, don't worry, darling. Nothing's going to happen to you. They're just going to grab you and throw you to the side. Throw you in the chuck wagon. Take you down to the station and then release you. It's catch and release. So you ain't got to worry about anything. All right. Well, that's it. Stay safe, I guess. And if I have anything else, I'll turn the camera back on. But stay safe. I guess if you got to wear a mask in your area, or the store you go to requires you to wear a mask, of course, put on your mask. I hate wearing a mask because it's hot. Even when you're inside the store, I'm sweating underneath my mask. You know, breathing in my own carbon. Is carbon monoxide we exhale? I know cars do carbon dioxide. Yes, so the stuff that comes out of the car's tailpipe is carbon dioxide. Stuff we exhale is carbon monoxide. So yeah, you're rebreathing your own carbon monoxide. So my suggestion is to get the thinnest mask you can get. You know, the handkerchiefs are pretty thin. Yeah, it's not healthy rebreathing your carbon monoxide. Because like I said, when I'm in the store, I'm like sweating underneath my mask. And it's like, whoa, you know, if there's nobody around, I'll take it off, kind of wipe myself down, look around. If someone comes around, okay. You know, while I'm shopping. All right, so, yep, and stay out of the ride zone. And if you are sick, get well. You know, welcome to the herd immunity. Once you recover, and you know, once you recover from the flu number 19, yeah, that's why it's called COVID-19. It's basically flu virus number 19. And you know, if Trump comes out with his vaccine, and if you feel like you got to take it, please be the guinea pig. You know, if people start growing third arms, you know, horns in their heads, then we'll know. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and thank you for sticking around.